You know, I talked to like, even my brother's professor. He's like, no, there's like 100 or something. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, how does that change? Like, I just don't understand how that changes, right? I just, they're like, oh, no, you're talking about sex. I'm like, what? They weren't, when we were growing up, they were the same thing. You're like, why is it changed, right? And I guess, so this is the part where I would push back in my own brain, because what happens with people, I don't call them names. I don't do all that kind of stuff too. But in my brain, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't. And I don't know, like, I don't know if I'm going to get canceled for saying this or not, but I'm like,
Hello and welcome to the DC Talks podcast. I'm Agent 00 Owen Osinde here as the co-host of the main man.
Nobody calls him that, right? So
he's always saying no one calls me that, but he knows I'm that guy. My guy DC.
What's up, brother?
Man, DC, we got a lot to chat about today, man.
We always have a lot to chat about.
A lot. You know,
we were just chatting offline. We're like, shit, maybe we should record this.
You know. But first question I want to ask you, man. Are you crazy?
The question was, am I mentally unstable? Actually,
are you mentally unstable, DC?
Yeah, well, I was a hockey goalie since I was 7, so people thought I was crazy for doing
nuts,
that.
Bro. You're taking pucks.
Listen, I've been called many things, and the latest one was like, was I mentally unstable? Was a funny one to me, and my wife was laughing. She was like, "Look, I mean, like," and the person that asked us that was like, Dave doesn't care, right? It's like, well, why was that question if I was mentally unstable? And it's the things we talk about on this podcast, and I was like, well, it's because I talk about my mental health and how, like, I had some struggles with mental health. They're like, no, it's the stuff you're saying lately. And I'm like, well, no, we've had a platform. We talk. One is we record for one day. One is a little more of a controversial. We talked about the 9/11 stuff. We talked about the Catholic Church, and the last one was the flat Earth one. And people are like, again, we didn't venture to say anything in that talk. I don't think we said our opinion on it. And we just kind of quoted from what people were saying and what they're finding.
And we gave numbers to support it.
Exactly. And I've been called, people ask me if I'm crazy, if I'm like, you don't really believe this stuff. And like, you should see some of the backlash we're getting from it. And it was funny. It was like, well, and I've said this many times, and I did a video on it too, which should be coming out, I record a week early. So I think I don't remember recording. So it might be this week coming out. And anyway, where I kind of talk about that, I said, the idea of the podcast is to get you to think. It's not to be a sheep. I hate that word sheeple. I hate people saying, oh, you're not awake. And that's true, right? Like, a lot of people just get comfort in knowing what they know, and they don't want to know anything else. They don't want to be pushed in a way. Like, they don't want to take the blue pill or the red pill, whatever it is. They don't want to open up their minds to other things. It's like they're just closed off of what they were taught, and that was it. When we speak on, we actually ask questions. In the beginning, I thought I was in 2009, we was talking about the crazy, when I got into conspiracy theories for about a year and a bit, people thought I was crazy then because I was exposing some of the stuff which now is seemed like, oh yeah, like now we see it. But we're talking 2009, people thought I was crazy. Like, oh, there's no way that there's a hidden agenda with the music industry. Oh, it just happens they do this all the time and all these kind of symbols. Oh, it's because it looks cool. Really? This looks cool? This looks cool? This looks cool. Like, and all of a sudden, like, did you not see how all of them, and I was saying, like, and most of the people, there's some sort of sacrifice in their family. And then all of a sudden, then Kanye talks about it too. And he's crazy because he talks about how his mom was sacrificed without giving the go ahead. Then there's, what's her name? Hudson, her family is like, there's always been some sort of sacrifice that happens. And we're exposing that and we're like, you're crazy. Okay. And then even what happened with, remember Taylor Swift?
Yes.
Where she was wearing red when Kanye jumped on the front and started, basically humiliating. But that was the whole humiliation. It's part of the whole plan. She was wearing red on purpose. It was a sacrificial color. And I exposed this too back then. They're like, again, you're crazy. Now you fast forward to Taylor Swift and watching her videos of what's going on in her concert. She's performing black masses in concert. Like, really? Did you not see what happened over here? Like, all of the symbolism she's been paying tribute to. And when you show pictures side by side, I remember there was one where Pink did, that was a musical, I forget it was the Grammys or it was a American Music Awards. And she had on exactly the same outfit that the Masonic leaders did, like everything upside down, the checkerboard and everything. And she's doing the same hand signals. And I'm like, okay, if I'm crazy, then why is she doing this? Oh, it's just entertainment. But why is she doing the hand symbols of something which were seen as pretty satanic or demonic or things that we should be staying away from. Like, and like, unless if you're in the know, you see it. If you're not in the know, you just call it entertainment.
Yeah.
So I've been called crazy for years about that too. So, and I kind of challenged. I said, well, why does it make it crazy? Because I'm showing you what I've seen. And again, I'm not the one writing the articles. I'm not the one saying this. I'm like, did you see this? But people just don't want to see it. So the best thing to say is the person telling you to read this stuff has got to be crazy. Am I crazy?
I don't think you are. I don't think you are. But where does the defensiveness come from? And why? I've always wondered, why does it always have to retort to name calling? Right? You bring up some of your comments. One of your comments, I saw one guy said, "Get this flat earth stuff out of here."
Effing flat earth stuff show up on my feed.
Exactly.
Thanks, Instagram.
Thanks, Instagram, right? It always goes into like this defensive mode, and you are name calling someone. You have no idea who they are. Why does it always go to that name calling and defensiveness, in your opinion?
I think a lot of times it's just a knee-jerk reaction, because if somebody's pushing a norm which you grew up with, which you perceive as being actual fact, to change your perception is not easy. So your first reaction is, it's like almost like an attack. So it's a normal response, because some people feel it's like attacking them personally, and that's the only thing. So it's like being in the playground when you're kids. It's like then you just attack at your basic level, right? And that's what that is. So yeah, I've had other people just roll their eyes and stuff too, and then but it's just people going out of their way and like being harsh about it. Well, what is it? Like what's been traumatizing you, and there's always something else behind that. But I think that a lot of times people just don't want to change. Like again, we keep bringing up the movie The Matrix, blue pill, red pill, but it's true, right? Some people rather live in the bliss, choose the pill. They're just like, so they're just stay ignorant, and they live in the bliss because it's easy and it's comfortable.
Yeah. This indoctrination and the older I get, the more I realize how heavily indoctrinated we are. It is stupendous. It is insane how our way of life, the way we do things, the things we say, and why we say
and
it,
how you say them,
and how you say it is all part of a huge designed way of living from like the time you're born. And what surprises me is that when you bring an opposing idea, for example, RE flat earth, that we just did it, or there could be some sort of like force or entity that exists out there, that having such a thought or an idea is so out of this world that for you to have the presence of mind to think that, you are like, who are you to think that, right? So, and it goes to the next thing. We brought up the idea of flat earth.
Yeah.
We pointed the facts that could be possible or why it supports this.
Other people smarter than us did some research.
Exactly. But then when you bring that up to someone, and I've done this with everybody, there's a certain part in their brain. And I think I sent you a tweet about this, saying the movie The Matrix, when the lady walks by and the guy questions it, and immediately you can see the guy respond back in a way that, no, that's not true, whatever. That is what we call the Matrix programming. So when you tell someone the earth is flat or something like that, they come up with, they don't look at you the same. First of all, they look at you like, whoa, what the hell? No, it's not. Like, you're crazy, you're cuckoo.
And then they make fun of you.
They make fun of you. And that programming is like put in, I don't even know how we even got there. And you ask them, why do you think the way you think?
Well, I can't. So the funny thing is, we never even got to that point.
I don't think we did.
Because and even with my group chat with my guys from St. Mike's that are like, we have from our graduating class, so they were just ripping on me, and I was like, because it didn't matter what I said and that too, because they're all like, throwing these, I believe in, because I believe in physics and all this other stuff too. And I'm like, first of all, I'm like, guys, I didn't say I believed in one way or the other way. Although I am leaning like way heavily, because of their response, leaning more towards the flat earth because of people's responses. The funny thing is, it does the opposite for me. Like, if you're so indoctrinated into one belief and won't sway another way, it doesn't matter what the evidence are, that makes me push the other way, right? Because because I was always told to be like, when you read the Bible, it talks about, you're supposed to be in this world, but not of this world. If the world is prescribing to something, it's not always true, right? That's what it's telling me. The God's telling me a different way. Like, yeah, like narrow is the way to the path to heaven, right? So it's funny when people just like, even just think like, as a rational human being, if somebody said something outrageous to me, instead of just being like, are you that stupid? You really believe that? I'm like, well, why am I stupid? Show me how my facts are not real. As opposed to just name calling. But that doesn't happen. No, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And I told you my buddy said the same thing. He goes, ask like, because we were talking about flat earth, and we're like, because we're just bouncing ideas with this. He goes, if people talk about the globe, how come they never have to prove that the globe exists? They just go on blind faith of what they've been told. And either way, guys, I'll be honest with you, whether you believe in flat earth or you're a globalist, you have a belief. Either way, it's a belief system. Even NASA's came out and said, like, I guess since 1972, and they only had the last picture of the world, it's been, they even told you that it's been touched up. The new picture has also been touched up. They've actually so what we're actually seeing has been touched up.
It's like Photoshop.
It's Photoshop. They said that too, but it's in the disclaimer, right? But people take what they see as like, well, that's the actual picture. I'm like, well, where's all the stars and everything else around? It just doesn't make sense, right? Like, it's like, okay, fine. Like, if that's the picture, but they said that they've taken representation. Now, it could be a picture, which is fine. And again, but I also said to people as well, I'm like, well, what if that's the firmament you're looking at? I'm just pushing ideas. So in case you don't know what flat earth is, it's not flat like this table. What it is, it's like a firmament. So it's the picture half of a tennis ball, cut it in half. It's like, it's a dome. So if you're looking at the dome like this, it would look like a globous earth. So that picture actually doesn't say that the world is round. It's a globe. Yeah. It's a picture. If it's not doctored, if it's not even if it's photoshopped a little bit, it could still be the firmament.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm just so surprised at why we defend the things we defend at the vigor that we defend it. Right? It's like you tell someone A, B, C, and D about something, and they defend it as if they know it, as if it's a fact. And then you ask them, why do you believe it's a fact? Because the scientists say that, because the doctors, because the authorities say that. So which leads me to my next point, DC, right? This idea of authority worship. Whatever is on the news, that is fact. Whatever the doctor says, that is a fact. Isn't
it funny how now all the stuff during the pandemic, all those people are getting charged or it's coming up? Did you see in the Australian news how they were like saying Fauci lied to us and stuff? They were outing him, saying, but back the American public, they were using every word he said, and they were saying his word. And then he came out, he would say something, and then he would change his mind. And it's like, so which is real? So it's funny. Be careful what the science said and all that too. They kept changing all of that stuff too. Trust the science. And it was like, regardless if you got, I don't want to talk about the vaccines and all that stuff too, because it's too touchy of a subject for most people. But the only thing I'd say at the end of the day is like, God, whether you got it or not too, it's like, that they lied to us because it's coming out now that there was all this misrepresentation. And I felt a lot of people, they feel like they got hoodwinked. And I have many people we talked about too, our family. Anyway, so be careful. Be careful. Well, look at the Pope, for example. Like, he's supposed to be, Christ on earth representation.
Pure. Everything.
Yeah, now he's coming out with stuff which is totally against he's coming out with things that are blatantly against the Bible, which is God's written word. And it's like, if anybody eyes to see it, it's like you can't change with the times. You can't. You're like, listen, they said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, right? No one gets to heaven through me. Okay, that's Jesus' words. They also said, it says in the Bible, I am the same yesterday, today, and forever. Which means God's law, the Ten Commandments don't change. Things don't change.
They don't change.
So how do you have a vicar of Christ on here, which goes against what the Bible says, and then they go against what the previous vicar said, and they keep changing? So that just tells you right there, is that of God? God said, I am the same yesterday, today, and forever. Same yesterday, today, and forever. My law does not change. Yet. The vicar can't even agree with what the previous vicar says. So how do you put authority in somebody which they don't even have authority in the previous institution? Which is all supposed to be the same institution.
And the thing about the authority, now that I'm thinking about it, when we go back and I was saying, you're young, they put authority within everything you do. As soon as you're in school, there's a teacher, there's a policeman, and the way they teach you these things is they teach you in professions. Oh, this is the doctor, this is the fireman, this is whatever. So you grow up with this level of like misguided guidance, if that's it's a little misnomer, but like guidance. Let's look at that. A doctor, he's supposed to guide you, but yet he can still misguide you at the same time. Mm-hmm. He can not diagnose you properly. He can give you false information.
That's all my old doctor, yeah.
Right? We go with the brain surgery part. Yeah. Even with the vaccine, as an example, we now learn that they were actually incentivized to provide you with that, the jab.
You don't even have to go as far as the vaccines. If you watch the movies, have you seen anything what's going on with Oxycontin?
Yeah, I watched the whole documentary.
Series, right?
Yeah.
You can just see like they're like, so the doctor, what you went to prescribe, they were told, they lied, but the authority of what you thought was supposed to have your back saying, oh, this is supposed to be, less addictive, all this stuff too. And it's like, but it wasn't. It was basically crack. Well, it was heroin, basically, what it was, basically. And the people were all getting paid along the lines and stuff. It was just like, so you go to somebody, what you feel is authority figure, prescribing you something and telling you, and you trust them, right? So yeah, misguided guidance.
And you see it everywhere. So we have those people as the physical reality. Now let's go to the digital reality of indoctrination. Whatever is on a TV, whatever information, and I'm just having an epiphany right now. From young, whatever comes out of a TV, that is the truth and the only truth that you can trust that, because we some way, somehow gave them our trust early, that whatever they say, that, yep, it was on the news. How many times have you heard that?
So many times.
I was on the news.
I was saying there was all these misinformation stuff, and there's all these scandals and stuff too. And like, well, where'd you get the information from? And I remember before like sending somebody from like TikTok, but it was like the person like Jordan Peterson would say something, or like, oh yeah, but it's from TikTok. I'm like, but it's Jordan Peterson saying it. What does it matter where it's coming? Like if the person orating it is the authority and like what you believe him to, what does it matter what the venue is? But if it was on TV and it was still say Jordan, I'm just using Jordan Peterson for example. But if he was on TV, then people would believe him more than if they saw it on TikTok. I'm like, but it's the same person. But you're 100% right. Where it was coming from matters to some people. Yeah, if it's on TV, well, it's got to be real. But if it's on TikTok, it was like, well, but it's the same person. Doesn't matter.
It's on social media, and it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
So now they know that they have our trust within the cable news network. Now, whatever they say, and they know we're going to buy it, and that now just influences everybody. So to leave the gates or the shackles of indoctrination, it's like first you have to get rid of TV, but it's gonna be even tougher because now, with more technology and with more forms of media, now authority figures within these established news networks, they're actually now coming into social media. So we're being bombarded with certain messages over and over and over, whether that's through like TikTok, Instagram, TV, all kinds of media. And now it just shapes that way of thinking and you can't leave it.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of messed up because what I think actually happens is that I feel like a lot of people think the way we do in terms of like seeing how we're indoctrinated.
Yeah.
But I think there's this idea of loneliness at the same time. Whereas if I have an opposing view, I'm going to be left alone. I'm not going to have any friends. People are going to think I'm crazy. People are going to think this way and that. And what's the worst fear we have is like being alone, right? We want to have like social circles. We want to have friends and etc.
It's true. Like when I first started talking conspiracy theories, I said before about all that other stuff, again, like nobody else was even thinking of that stuff. So it was just like, they would look at you and they'd let you talk and they're like, and then just their eyes would gloss over and just like, what is this guy talking about? Mm-hmm. Right. And it was just like, so I don't know if I was ostracizing myself from groups and stuff too. And Natalie was just like, okay, you're being a little too much, right? It was
being extra.
But it was in my head. It was like, and there was nobody who was seeing this stuff. And I was called names, still get it. I'm just like, whatever. And so now it's like, I have to qualify it. well, my conspiracy theory, like what I've read of conspiracy stuff too. And it's like, as opposed to be like, okay, this is what I read. I'm like, now if you have to qualify it so people can, at least in their head, they can justify it as not being real if it comes from conspiracy theory. So I was watching this conspiracy stuff too. But if I said this is actual real, like they just will shut you down. They just turn off their brain and they're like, they just refuse to listen to it.
Yeah.
Now there are some people I still talk about when I see this stuff in the news. They still think like either they'll question everything I say or they just won't believe anything I say.
So you're kind of messed. Like you can't go anywhere.
I can't. And that's why at this point, it's like we talk about stuff and we're like, you know, we'll talk about stuff that which matters to me, and we'll touch on things without being, you know, like without trying to piss people off, just to not piss people off, but kind of like get into my brain a little bit and trying to. This is what the DC talks about. Like we want to get in there and like get you to think too about the stuff too. Now, if there's something out there too that is just kind of eating at you and it's like you don't know how to scratch it, that's the idea, right? Like do some research, all this stuff too. Like we've talked about things have been inside my head from, you know, from my childhood to my brain surgery to my faith to conspiracy stuff too. These are all stuff that flies in my head about a million, like every single day. Like I'm like just, it's good to get it out there too. Now, do I understand? I understand most people don't have a million things spin in their mind, don't think the way I do, but that's my reality. Like, so why are you ripping me down for that? Right. It's like, you're open to people changing genders, people pretending to be cats, you know, as opposed to like bringing litter boxes into schools. And that's fine with you. Like that's not a problem for you. But for me to say that, to have an open possibility of the way you look at the view of the world, I'm the crazy one, you know, like, I don't know. It just, to me, it's a little backwards.
Yeah. They've collectively indoctrinated that is normal now. Right. So you see how information slowly works within the collective consciousness.
Yeah, totally.
A litter box, bro. A litter box. That is now normal, right? That took years of like slowly subliminal language, images.
I wonder if those kids are just laughing at their parents when let's see how far I can take this. Meow, meow, meow. I'm a mother effing cat.
Yeah.
Meow, meow, meow.
Like,
oh yeah?
You're
gonna clean up my shit after school. That's the parents have to go in and clean the litter box.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
That's you taking dookies.
Could you imagine you've got your kid out of diapers and all of a sudden now they're like, I identify as a cat. I'm like, well, if you identify as a cat, you shouldn't be talking to me, right? Just meow your ass off. And then you have to go every day to clean up after. I'm like, I just finished cleaning your shit for freaking, 4 years or 3 years. Over like I think my kids were only like 2 when they got potty trained. But now I got to do it again.
Yeah.
I wonder if the kid's just laughing at them.
They're just like giggling. They're just like, yo, how?
Look at the size of the turd I'm going to leave mom and dad. Yeah. This one. I'm going to fill the whole bowl. I've been waiting. And they're making I'm eating stinky stuff on purpose. Like, it's got to be a joke.
It is. I don't know how we got to this point, man.
Could you imagine growing up? You're similar. I think we grew up. You going to your dad. I think I'm a cat. I would have got knocked.
My dad wouldn't even like entertain that conversation. He'll just look at me, he'll just chuckle, and he'll just like ignore me. He wouldn't even give me the time of day.
I don't think my dad would. I actually don't think he would have hit me or anything. I just think he would have looked at him like,
he'll find it humorous.
Yeah. I guess it seemed like my dad was like, get serious. That would be his reaction.
Yeah.
God. I would have liked somebody if I said that, or somebody should have knocked me out. God, man. I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm being insensitive too, but it's like,
no, you're just being rational.
What I have a problem with is people not accepting who they are. That's what I have a problem with. I do. I think it's a problem in their mental, and instead of being able to fix the mental problem, which you have, and that's not saying like transgender. Like, no, some people are born to be transgender. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're coming up to me like saying I'm a cat, I'm a mouse, I'm a dog. Okay, fine. I identify as a lamp. Like what? Like, you know what I mean? Like what in your brain makes you think that you're that? Like, can we get to the root problem of that as opposed to putting a litter box in the school?
Yeah.
The kid, if the kid comes to you and says, at that young age that I have, that I think I'm a cat, shouldn't you set him up a therapy before you set up a litter box? Like, what's wrong with yourself that you don't love yourself enough? What is inside of you that's bothering you? Like, what are you envious again? Yeah, if you're over 18, you want to like see those that one. There's that cat lady, she tattooed and stuff her face up. That other guy wants to look like an alien. He's removed fingers, wants to remove a leg, and all of his facial stuff. God, I don't know what the who hurt you. You know, like to me, I don't know. It took me a while to love myself, and we've talked about this before. And I understand the struggles you're going through. It's like because all of us go through that. Like we're not comfortable a lot of times with who we are. But don't make any permanent changes to yourself until you figure out. I think you need to accept who you are and love who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not easy. And it's funny because people say that too. It's a lot of times it's easier to love somebody else than it is to love yourself because you see your own faults. You live in your own head. You know all the things you've done wrong, right? So sometimes it's hard to love yourself, and I get that. But we have to try. You know, I think that people that are they're indoctrinating us into change our perspective like of the world. They're saying like we're allowing those kids to do all that stuff too. And it's like it also makes us question who we are as ourselves because no, I don't like the society right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't like that.
Yeah.
You know, like so it's like, do I want to be part of this? And then they're like it's not a good scene, you know. It's not.
Yeah. And even with that kind of change, you're noticing a lot of people gaming the system now. So you said you identify as a cat now. So there was actually a job fair in New York this week. And it was a women's only conference for management consulting. So you had like the Goldman Sachs, like McKinsey, whatever, all like the big fours. You had all these guys come in there who had put on their resumes that they're, you know how they say, okay, what's your pronoun? Okay, it's she, hers, they, theirs, whatever. They see their names. Okay, it's Greg, but he identifies as she, hers, these girl pronouns.
So I went to an all girls conference.
So conference doors open up. It's now infiltrated by these guys who look like men, right? But they identify as women. So this is when I knew the sham was up, right? So now you're having all these women who are now saying, why are we having all these men here, right? Which kind of contradicts what you support with this gender ideology thing. Like, okay, if this guy wears a wig and says, my name is Gregina instead of Greg, now you accept me. But now just because I look like a normal guy, you have no idea if I've transitioned below my body. So it kind of like, I was like, man, the jig is up. Like this is all, I don't know what's the best way to say without getting in trouble, man, but this is all theater. It's all theater, right? So you can now see like when the indoctrination just doesn't align with what they want to go with, now it's a problem.
Yeah.
Right? A guy comes in and says, okay, yo, so we're going to play this game of she, hers, theirs. Okay, fine. I'm a she, her. I'm applying for this job as well. It's like, well, he's a guy. Well, identify as a woman, so take me as is. Mm-hmm. All right, so so I'm not a woman now because when do you decide all that stuff?
I'm the wrong person to ask about the gender stuff because I don't know.
I know, but
because I don't because it keeps changing.
It keeps changing. It's very fluid.
I just don't understand. Like, so I grew up with a mentality where there's two genders. I did, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know what physiologically changed with people that there's not two genders. You know, and I talked to like, you know, even my brother's professor. He's like, no, there's like 100 or something. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, how does that change? Like, I just don't understand how that changes. Right. I just, they're like, oh, no, you're talking about sex. I'm like, what? They weren't, when we were growing up, they were the same thing. You're like, why is it changed? Right. And I guess, so this is the part where I would push back in my own brain because what happens with people, I don't call them names. I don't do all that kind of stuff too. But in my brain, that doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. And I don't know, like, I don't know if I'm going to get canceled for saying this or not, but I'm like, I know my brain, I can't compute anything more than two genders. It just doesn't make sense to me. And that's not transgender. That's all the stuff. And I get that too. So I used to say, okay, well, there's a hermaphrodite. So I guess threes. So three genders, I guess. But but then now people are saying no, gender is how the way you feel. And I was like, but then that's not science because it's hard to prove that, right? So but the word gender refers back to science, no? So I was like, so I'm confused.
When did feelings become science?
Yeah, I guess I got really confused. So when if you had a whole bunch of gender fluid people on an island, when they die, you look up their corpse, you can tell there's only two things they would be, right? Either they look at their body physiology, right? So that's how my brain commutes gender. So I look at it as like, well, what is your physiology? So you might have been a male and you transition to a female. So outwardly, so now you're biologically a female. Internally, you're still a male. Okay, I get that. But when you're saying like a gender is like a fluid, I'm like, but no, like, or non-binary. But I'm like, but your body is binary. So your mental state is non-binary. So this is the problem I have. Like, so when do we classify the issue I have with this is for medical reasons. Okay, so when you're going in, like, if you need medical treatment and say there's only some sort of things like, so are you going to come in to see me if I say I'm a female and I say my ovaries are going to burst and I call a 911 call and I look at you, that's obviously I don't have ovaries, right? It's like, well, am I going to be upset that you're not trying to check my ovaries, right? Or, that's kind of like the situation where, like, I heard this one guy got upset. He was on television and he was like, he was a male, but identified as a female, went to a gynecologist and the gynecologist wouldn't take him. He's like, why? Because I have a penis? He's like, yeah, like physiology. This is where I have a problem, right? Yeah. It's like, I understand in your mind you think you're female, but their physical attributes don't show that. Now, if you had a sex change and now you have a physical vagina and you need to go to a gynecologist, I don't know if is there a special gynecologist for the transit? I don't know. So, but that kind of would make more sense, no?
Yeah.
So sorry, and I hope we don't, again, you never know if you get cancer, but I'm just expressing my feelings.
Of course.
I just don't understand. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
And that's why, so for me, I'm also the we're talking about at the beginning of the show, like people get mad. I'm not getting mad about it. I just don't understand it. Like literally, I don't get it. So I had a sale the other day, last year, and which the daughter was non-binary, and I was like, I didn't know what to call her. I'm like, she's a cute kid. It was like, it was nice. It was like totally. I'm like, okay, that's what you identify as too. It's like, it is what it is. That's what you identify as. But when you go to, there should be another category. What are you physiologically underneath?
Yeah.
Because also isn't there certain diseases that affect males, certain diseases that only affect females. So when it comes down to the science about it too, shouldn't that be on somewhere? So you could put so I don't know if we have like, we used to have sex and gender. So why not just have another category? Gender identified and gender at birth. And if there's because I think that would solve some of that would help my brain.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm pretty mathematical.
You're very analytical.
Very analytical. But I'm also very creative. But I can be creative in the analytics, but I need to have some direction here. I need somebody to work with me here because my brain just can't compute certain things. And this is one of them I'm struggling. I'm putting out there, I'm vulnerable in this kind of stage because I'm struggling with this gender thing. I really am. And I'm struggling with saying what I feel because it's like, I don't want people to cancel because this is like, I just don't get it. So like, am I a bigot because I don't understand this? Am I racist? Am I like all those other
You're fascist?
Am I fascist? I'm like, sorry, I just don't get it. So when I saw that even my client, I was like, oh, it's the first non-binary person I ever came across. And I'm like, she was a girl. She was obviously a girl and was just non-binary. I'm like, I didn't know how to react. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, okay. Like, so I didn't even know what to say. What do I call him, her? Like, I didn't even know how to have the conversation, like how to approach that. I stayed away from it. I just like, okay. And that was it. And again, it's, I don't know. I just can't compute it.
You know, this is, you know how the WEF, they have that great reset thing. I think past 2020 DC, we're going under that great reset. And I think the great reset has like many different tiers. There's like a social great reset. There's like an economical great reset.
Right.
There's like a healthcare great reset. A living, I think that will go under economical. But socially, we're being reset to think about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we know it, but we don't really know it. And I think they have a whole plan of how they want us to think. You know, we're gonna eat the bugs, right?
No,
we're gonna like it's even when you're saying about the whole thing about the guy. I was actually watching a debate on He's a prominent guy on CNN. His name is Mark Lamont. He was saying dudes can have periods. And he genuinely, Mark Lamont Hill, he genuinely believed this.
How?
Like, and even
we don't have the mechanisms
we
to do
don't.
it. So this is where it comes down to science.
That's the indoctrination right there.
I just don't understand. So we scientifically don't have the plumbing to have periods. We don't have the plumbing.
We don't have the plumbing.
We don't have the plumbing.
Yeah. We don't have the tools.
It's just, I'm sorry.
Oh man, this is funny.
If we looked at the human being as a robot,
Yeah.
we made them do. You don't have the parts.
You don't have the facilities, big man.
Now, you can add things into there, which may or may not be rejected, and which you can do that. Why? I don't know why you want to do that. That's your own prerogative. But the way we're born, we don't have those.
We don't. But you see how crazy it is. Is
But
like,
yeah, and he's probably applauded for that.
he was applauded, and the bosses want him to say that. He's like, no matter what arguments you get, whatever facts you get, go with feelings, and your feelings are truth. So now, man, it's crazy because we're now entering this arbitrary way of living. There's no boundaries. There's no nothing.
So yeah, when we present something with some people found a fact and they're kind of giving us evidence stuff too, there's nothing in our feelings. We're the crazy ones. But if I said something is crazy, which is going to be out left field, and I said I identify as a lamp because if you rub me, I'll turn like as a genie in a lamp.
Yeah.
So you rub me, I'll turn like
Yeah.
genie in a bottle and rub me the right way.
Exactly.
Then it's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Because that's how I feel.
That's how you feel. So what that is, we're going.
So feelings of, so you're trying to tell me in this world, which I'm obviously being facetious here, but you're trying to tell me in this world that feelings trump facts?
Yes. Now, moving forward, feelings trump facts. That is it. Whether you like it or not, that's how things are now. I wish we can like unpack this even further.
God, we can be here all day talking about
We could be
this
here
too.
chopping it
We
up.
could also get canceled very quickly if we get into it deeply.
Yes.
Again, guys, don't cancel us for this. This is like we're being open and honest.
We're just having a dialogue.
And I would say this is my plea to do. Like, if you're listening to these and like you're just watching the clips and don't actually watch the whole podcast, maybe tune in. Tune into the podcast is what we're saying. If you don't know what we were talking about with the flat earth stuff, watch it. Watch and see what we're talking about. Don't just take the clips and then take it as absolute, because those things might be taken out of context. So same with this one. I'm actually asking how my brain, I'm showing you how my brain works.
Yes.
So I'm not saying like what you're feeling is wrong. Listen, did I say that ever once?
Nope.
Did I say to somebody who feels non-binary, that's absolutely wrong, that's hogwash? I didn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you feel, whatever it is. Again, but is that how you feel because you're not happy with yourself? Are you happy with yourself? Is that the way you identify with? Is that gives you pleasure? I don't know. I don't know what it is. But what I'm saying is, but how does that relate to your physicality of it? There's two different things. Whereas my brain, when you talk about sex and gender, I'm binary. Like I'm binary. I'm thinking that way. That's how my brain works. Your brain might work like this. I'm not canceling you for saying that too. I just want to understand how that actually works. Mm-hmm. What I don't like though, I know we need to wrap up. What I don't like is how people switch their genders as they feel. This is also part of the problem. Like one day, like you hear like, and it was a joke. Like there was a video clip where the alien is in there trying to figure out all the genders, and it's like, well, this is my nephew. He was this, and he keeps switching. And like you hear about people like, well, I was this, now I'm this, and I'm like, and they're switching their genders. And I'm like, I didn't think genders could be switched. Mm-hmm. So that's another part of my brain which does not compute this, right? Mm-hmm. It just, my brain shuts down when you start to say like, I was this yesterday, now I'm this. I was female today. I'm non-binary. Tomorrow I'm going to be. I don't even know the names of some or some of the other. I'm like, hey, how do you determine that? Like, what happens? Again, my brain doesn't get that. Yeah. So I don't know. Same. Okay.
Yeah, man, like Dwayne in the back. Shout out to Dwayne coming in today. But yeah, let us know what you think about that. Right? What are your beliefs? What are your thoughts on how indoctrination has taken over the collective consciousness, and we're all thinking the same way, we're all doing the same thing? Comment below whatever clip it is that you see. Please engage. We'd love to have a nice discussion within the comments. And lastly, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. if you're watching this on YouTube, and also rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts and hit that rating button on Spotify. And we'll see you next week for episode 45.
Bye, guys.